Everyone who has the least romance in his soul is interested in charms, though few of the present age have ever troubled themselves to inquire into their origin and history. To openly declare one's beliefs in such things, whether it be in any ordinary charm, in a gem or jewel, is to lay oneself open to ridicule, if nothing worse. Why is this? The answer must be because of the inability to distinguish between superstition and romance. To rise superior to superstition is progress and enlightenment, but alas, the day when romance ceases to exist. Shakespeare, when he wrote, "The man that hath no music in himself, nor is not moved with concord of sweet sounds, is fit for treason, stratagems, and spoils." Shakespeare, when he wrote, might have substituted the word romance for music, for verily romance may be said to distinguish the human being from the animal. It is a product of the imagination, and animals have no imagination, so far as we are aware. Every normal human being has this faculty of romance, either latent or active, and if this book can in some measure fructify or strengthen that faculty in its readers, then the writer will consider it has done good work. Let romance grow along with knowledge, and the result will be spirituality. But if with ignorance we get superstition, here the question will naturally arise, is the belief in the power of charms all imagination? To this the writer would emphatically say no, and it has been his endeavor to show in the following pages the reason and logic of the power claimed for these things. But even if this work were but the means of exciting the imagination of its readers into activity, then theirs will be the benefit. Has the reader ever considered what imagination is? It must not be confused with fancy, for it is the creative or formative power of the mind, a power of the higher soul of man. Imagination with faith and will form the three angles of the triangle of power, without which no creative work or materialization of thought would be possible. Thus we see that a strong and well-organized imagination adds to the creative power of the human mind. A few years ago, wireless telegraphy, aerial navigation, human radiations, and many other achievements of modern science would have been laughed at as the vain imaginings of a superstitious dreamer today. Therefore, the writer ventures to suggest that the efficacy of charms and precious stones may be recognized and placed on a scientific basis before many years are past. In writing this work, it has been necessary to borrow from various authors, ancient and modern, and to these the writer acknowledges his indebtedness. Much of the matter in sections 2 and 3 is original and the outcome of years of study and investigation. George H. Bradley, Harrogate, 1906. Then speaks the Lord and waves its light. Then speaks the Lord and waves it light. This glass of flashing crystal tall gave to my sires the fountain sprite. She wrote in it, if this glass doth fall, farewell then, O luck of Eden Hall. Longfellow. The luck of Eden Hall. They have the crystals, I do know, and rings, and virgin parchment, and their dead men's skulls, their raven wings, their lights and pentacles, with characters. I ha seen all these. Ben Jonson, devils and ass. All things in earth and air bound were by magic spell, never to do him harm, even the plants and stones, all save the mistletoe, the sacred mistletoe. Longfellow, Tegner's Drapa. And still o'er many a neighboring door she saw the horseshoe curved charm. The horseshoe's curved charm to guard against her mother's harm. Whittier, the witch's daughter. Magic and not mere aestheticism was the original motive for wearing jewelry, said Professor Ridgway. Magic, 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 and not mere aestheticism was the original motive for wearing jewelry, said Professor Ridgway to the Anthropological Society in April 1904. Numerous examples were given which could not leave a doubt that jewelry was always and is even now subconsciously worn for its magic properties. Any jewel or gem so worn must be classed as a charm, which word means anything worn to avert ill or secure good of fortune. Some prefer the name a mascot, which is the French for a little sorcerer or magician. Anything bringing good luck. By this it is clear that the French recognize magic as the power acting through the charm. It is not necessary that the object to which this power is ascribed need be a piece of jewelry. For charms have taken as many forms in design and material as there have been varieties of magic practiced by their use. Minerals, metals, precious stones, indeed all of nature's products, may be said to possess this magical property, while any object may be converted into a charm by one who possessed the necessary knowledge and essential qualifications. Among historical charms we find gems, jewels, coins, vases, goblets, stones, weapons, herbs, trees, skulls, bones, buildings, animals, water, human beings. There is also that large section called spells, where the charm consists of a formula of words or written characters, often the object and formula being used in conjunction. They may be also classed as individual, family, tribal, and national. There are numerous stories connected with our subject, many of these well authenticated, which go to prove that there is more in this branch of magic than is generally supposed. No doubt the truth as to their efficacy is often overlaid with much fiction and nonsense, yet underneath, if we will but search, we may find a stratum of truth which will repay the trouble taken. We will now see what history has to contribute to our subject. Rings appear to have been much in evidence in connection with magic, and many are those to which this mysterious faculty is attributed. Solomon is credited with having possessed a ring in which was imprisoned spirits who at their master's command performed the most marvelous acts. Many old legends relate to similar powers being possessed by owners of rings served by evil spirits, made slaves to man's will by unlawful searching into the forbidden. Apollonius of Tyana is said to have changed his rings daily, using a particular ring with the correct jewel for every day of the week. Speaking of his magical power, Justin Martyr asks, how is it that the talismans of Apollonians have power in certain members of creation? There was long preserved in Westminster Abbey a ring which was reported to have been brought to King Edward by persons from Jerusalem. This ring was said to prevent the falling sickness. Cardinal Wolsey was openly accused before the Court of Confederacy with a man named Wood, a sorcerer, who said that my Lord Cardinal had such a ring that whatsoever he asked of the king's grace that he had it. This case is to be found in the record office. This case is to be found in the record office of the Rolls House. The Emperor William of Germany possesses a ring which has a very curious history. It is the talisman of the family. Legend relates that since the time of the Elector John of Brandenburg, every ruler of the House of Hohenzollern has, when dying if possible, handed a sealed packet to his successor. This packet contains a ring in which is set a black stone that was dropped by an enormous toad upon the bed of the wife of the Elector immediately after she had given birth to a son, the toad afterwards mysteriously disappearing. The stone was zealously taken care of, and the father of Frederick the Great had it set in a ring. Schneider, the librarian of William I, declares that he witnessed the handing over of the precious packet by Galen, the treasurer, to his royal master on his accession. And he further asserts that he read the full account of the stone to the emperor, who fully confirmed it. The ring has ever since been worn by the head of the House of Hohenzollern. William II wears it on all great occasions, and he has great respect, like every Hohenzollern, for the curious old jewel. In the archives at Berlin are many documents of that time referring to it. A well-known story is that of the Spanish opal, and many are the Spaniards who believe that the long series of misfortunes that has befallen Spain and the present dynasty comes of a cursed opal ring that a neglected beauty spitefully bestowed upon Alfonso XII. The opal is of a very large size and of brilliant coloring. It is set in filigree gold and has no other jewels about it. The ring belonged to a famous beauty, an adventuress, the Comtesse de Castiglione, who was in the glory of her beauty and power during the reign of Napoleon III. Among her most ardent admirers was Alfonso XII, then an outcast and a pretender. When he became king and married one of his own royal blood, the jealousy of the Comtesse was aroused, and her hatred was terrible. A few months after the king's marriage, he received a package from the Comtesse, containing a beautiful opal ring of rare coloring. It was called a wedding gift and a memento of the friendship the king had held. For the Comtesse, the king showed it to his wife, Queen Mercedes, who was charmed with its beauty and begged to keep it. Alfonso gave it to her readily, and she slipped it on her finger. From that moment she commenced to ail, and in a few months she died. The ring fell from her dead hand, and the king gave it to his grandmother, Queen Christina, who died a few months later. Next, the ring was given to Alfonso's sister, the Infanta Maria del Pilar, who wore it but a few days before she died of a mysterious sickness. The sister-in-law then came into possession of it, the youngest daughter of the Duke and Duchess de Montpensier, and in 3 months the young princess was dead. After this series of fatalities, the king determined to keep the ring himself, and he slipped it on his little finger, but he did not wear it long, and his unhappy life shortly came to an end. Queen Christina, who is not in any way superstitious, took possession of the ring after her husband's death death, but the other members of the family begged her to destroy it. This she refused to do, but attached the fatal ring to a gold chain, which she hung round the neck of the Virgin of Almudena, the patron saint of Madrid. Not content with the evil influence of the cursed opal, Spain possesses another piece of jewelry of deadly maleficence. Mephisto's ring, as it is called. It is a gold ring set with a large emerald, the center of which has been hollowed out and contains a ruby surrounded with tiny diamonds. It came to Spain, no one knows from whence, in the reign of Philip II. And following its arrival came the succession of calamities which brought about the decline of Spanish power. To those who owned the ring, it seemed to bring personal disaster, and at the time of the Spanish-American War, it was presented by the Spanish royal family to a church, possibly in the hope that its baneful influence would thus be neutralized. The church was burned to the ground, but the ring was saved, and this time given to a museum. The museum was afterwards struck by lightning twice, and the return of the ring to the royal family was followed by the defeat of the Spanish army and navy. The ring has now been placed in a strong box and buried. The Tsar of Russia is said to be very superstitious and to have great confidence in relics. He wears a ring in which is embedded a piece of the true cross. And it is said to have the virtue of shielding its wearer from any physical danger. It was originally one of the treasures of the Vatican, and was presented to an ancestor of the Tsar for diplomatic reasons. The value which its owner sets upon the ring is shown by the fact that he will never, if possible, move any distance without it. Some years ago, he was traveling from St. Petersburg to Moscow when he suddenly discovered he had forgotten the ring. The train was stopped immediately, and a special messenger sent back in an express for it. Nor would the Tsar allow the train to move until 8 hours afterwards, when the messenger returned with the ring. It is said that when his ill-fated grandfather was so cruelly assassinated, he had left the ring behind him. The Tsar has also another ring with a more pleasant history to it. The story is both pretty and romantic. It is a plain ring and of a quaint Gothic design. The ring was given to Princess Charlotte of Prussia, daughter of Frederick William III, by her governess while the princess was still a schoolgirl. On the inside of it is in faint characters the words Russia Tsarina are just legible. Many years later, Prince Nicholas of Russia, then without any hope of succeeding the throne, saw and fell in love with the young princess, and during dinner on the first evening of their meeting begged her to give him a little remembrance. As a sign that his love was returned. "Pray give me that little ring," he whispered, and secretly it was handed to him. 8 years later, the prophetic words engraved within the ring came true. Nicholas became Tsar of Russia, and Charlotte, it's Napoleon the First. No. Nicholas became Tsar of Russia, and Charlotte, it's Tsarina. Napoleon I had great faith in a ring which he always wore. At the time of his abdication at Fontainebleau in 1814, and after his unsuccessful attempt to poison himself, he said to Dr. Corvisart, who attended him, "I was not meant to die. I did not think of my talisman." So saying, he pointed to his ring, which he is supposed to have received from a priest after the Nile expedition. After his death, the ring was transferred to Queen Hortense. The same ring played a part in the life of young Prince Imperial, who met his death in Zululand in 1879. His father, Napoleon III, became the possessor of the ring previously mentioned and wore it constantly. When he died, it was proposed that the ring should be removed and worn by his son. When the prince refused to have this done, it was freely prophesied that evil would come to it, and subsequently events go to show that these predictions were realized. But it is not only royalty who believe in the magic of charms, for we find the great composer Haydn had a ring which was his source of inspiration. Without the ring he could rack his brain in vain for melodies. With it the music would leap to his fingers. Mr. Rider Haggard, the novelist, wears a quaint signet ring which once adorned the finger of that Pharaoh who made Israel captive, and to this ornament the novelist ascribes many virtues. Monsieur Santos Dumont, the conqueror of the air, is stated to attribute his providential escape from injury in 1901 to the fact that he was wearing on his wrist a bracelet to which hangs a medal of Saint Benoit given him by the Countess d'Eu. Miss Yvonne Lamour, the young Spanish protégée of the late King of Servia, wears a curious tortoise-shell brooch which has an interesting history. It was, it seems, given to the King Milan by his mother. He in turn gave it to King Alexander. A few days before his assassination, the king sent for Miss Lamour and gave her the brooch. Wear it as a mascot, he said. When you have it on, you will have good luck. She has worn it daily ever since. The well-known jeweler, Mr. Streeter of Bond Street, though not afraid to walk under ladders, to spill salt and do other unlucky things, always carries attached to his watch chain a small, quaint, sharply carved seal which was originally found in an Egyptian coffin. He has worn it for many years and says he would not be without it for anything. The clever black and white artist, Mr. Austin Osman Spell, once picked up a golden skull bearing the word 1 in opals. On the night he picked it up, he dreamed that as long as he kept the trinket, he would be lucky. So far his dream has come true. It is for this reason that he signs his drawings 1. Miss Kellerman, the swimmer, possesses a little mascot in the shape of the model of a diver. Madame Etsy never appears in public without a small green heart, which is attached to a delicate necklace of gold. She also values highly an antique topaz trophy, which she has converted into a brooch. This stone was once possessed by a famous Indian necromancer. By appealing to his power, he was able to command the appearance of food and drink. One night he lay by the side of a suffering comrade on the battlefield. He himself was wounded by a dart. He heard his comrade moaning in an agony of thirst, and taking the charm from his bosom, threw it to the side of the sufferer, saying, "Wear it near thy heart, in thy parched throat, and thy parched throat would find relief," and fell back dead. The strange command was obeyed, and when at dawn the grateful soldier looked for his benefactor, no trace could be found. With this legend, it was thought to be especially appropriate in the possession of a singer, and Madame Etsy regards it with due reverence. Mrs. Nicholas Longworth's favorite ornament is a beautiful jade necklace, which was given to her when she visited the Empress of China. The Empress herself decorated Miss Roosevelt with the necklace and told her that the linked bits of stone were very old, that they had been cut by an artist who had the reputation of being one half wizard, and that the ornament would bring to its owner her heart's desire. Her heart's desire. Of the many rich and curious gifts which Miss Roosevelt received during her tour, this was the only one which she kept for herself and wore constantly. After her engagement to Congressman Nicholas Longworth was made public, she confided to some of her friends that she believed there really was virtue in the necklace.